My daughter, Jessie Foster, missing 6.5 years. She's my second out of 4 daughters. And I can remember like her stepmom used to always joke around when she was little saying, there's no flies on her, because she was always so active, always popular with her friends. In grade 7, when they were doing the graduating from grade 7 into high school, I was actually taking a hairdressing course, and Jessie and all of her friends came down to the school and we did all of their hair, and Jessie helped do all the makeup because she's always been really good at doing makeup. And she went from the biggest tomboy, where one of my neighbors thought she was a boy, to being the most dainty, girly girl of anybody. 2 of my finest memories, obviously. But you know, that was Jessie. Always, made you laugh, always had friends with her. You know, when she went to Calgary for grades 11 and 12, I still get messages from the kids that she only knew for the 2 years, telling me how much, they loved her and they cherished her friendship. When she graduated high school in 2002, she stayed on in Calgary for a couple more years. And when she was 20 years old, she moved back to Kamloops. And it was at that time that she started getting invited on what I call the trips, but I do it like that. The first one was to Florida, and as worried as I was about it, everything seemed fine. She came back, she had pictures of what looked like a phenomenal vacation. Parasailing on the Atlantic and jumping on water trampolines out on the water and out on a yacht, and it was just amazing. I was actually very happy that she had what looked like a wonderful trip. But when she was invited on another one a couple of weeks later, and I'm trying to explain, people don't go on free trips. People don't pay for you to travel all over for nothing. Either he wants something from you or there's a motive. She could never get that. When Jessie was first taken to Florida, she was taken to Fort Lauderdale and to the Keys, which are 2 cities that I found out after she went missing are key hubs for human trafficking. And 2 other hubs are New York and Atlantic City. Those were the second places she was taken. And it was actually after a night in Atlantic City that the word prostitution was even brought up to Jessie. This guy says to her, "Oh, I lost all the money last night gambling. So maybe you could, just turn a couple of quick tricks to get us a bit of cash to go home." She was so offended, just right from the get-go at even the thought, that she ran down to the lobby and phoned me and told me. And I'm in British Columbia, Canada, and she's in Manhattan, New York, telling me this. And I'm freaking thinking, this is exactly what I thought. These are exactly why I didn't want you to go. These are what I was trying to say. But she's still saying to me, "Oh, he's just being a jerk. He's not going to do anything." She still felt enough confidence in him as a friend to go back upstairs to that room. The next day she calls me, happy as a clam, telling me, "Oh, we're not coming back to Canada. We're going to Las Vegas first." And I'm freaking. Did she not remember what she just told me? Because I remember what she just told me he had done the night before. And why would she want to go anywhere with him? But you know what? She was 20 years old, 2 weeks before her 21st birthday. Somewhere in her brain got the idea of spending her 21st birthday in Las Vegas, which is something a lot of Canadians want to do. When I tried to explain to Jessie that this is what people do, they take you away, all she could tell me is that I worry. All I could do is get her to promise to come home after her birthday. Her birthday came and went, no talk about coming home. I said, "Now you need to come home." Now she's telling me that there was a car accident and she's got to wait for an insurance claim. I wait for word on this, nothing. Now she's telling me how she's met somebody, that she's fallen in love. And she's moving in with this fellow. She's going to move into his house. I couldn't get through to her that you can't just move to another country and move in with somebody. There's a process to live in another country. You needed a visa. You needed to have a permit to work. You needed to have permission to stay. It didn't matter what I had said. She would just go on about all the fun she's having, about all the excitement that it is down there, about how she was sitting at a club next to Justin Timberlake. And then when she got engaged and said she's going to move in with this guy, I tried to get her to tell me a little bit about him, and all she could say was that he was a bit older. She told me he was in his 30s. She was 21. Turns out he was in his 40s. I found out from the Las Vegas Metro Police that he's a known pimp. Unfortunately, when you find these things out after your daughter's missing, it just makes it worse. It makes you know that no matter how many times I knew I was right, I still didn't go down and just grab her and bring her home. And that's probably my hardest thing, is that I knew that something wasn't right. But you know what? I worked and I had other kids. I still had 2 teenagers at home. I just couldn't up and go to another country. And, you know, I'm thinking she's not a dumb girl. She came home once. She came home just before Christmas time. We all thought she wasn't going back. She ended up on the phone over and over, fighting and screaming and swearing with this so-called fiance. I actually was very happy, thinking that this is it. There's no way she's going back to this. And we got up Christmas morning, opened up presents. We were preparing to go to my father's house for Christmas dinner. But Christmas morning, she said she has to go back to Las Vegas that day. And we're like, what do you mean? Nobody flies out unexpectedly on Christmas Day. Didn't matter what we said. We dropped her off at the airport, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Christmas Day. And I've never seen her beautiful face since. I talked to her on the phone for another 3 months, but I never saw her again. And so my friend and I went down there, and I tried to get a hold of that pimp. Jessie still called him her fiance, but when she went missing and he would say things to us and to the media about how Jessie Foster was a hooker when I met her, I no longer had any qualms about saying anything to him at all. And when I got to Las Vegas and I wanted to meet with him, I called him every single day I was there. And every day he told me he wasn't going to come and see me. And everything was just piling up as to nothing added up right. So finally, on the second to last day of us being in Las Vegas, and he still hadn't agreed to talk to me, the strangest thing happened that night. It started to rain. We actually were huddling under a walkway with a fellow, and we gave him a poster. This fellow turned out to be from Texas. He was an ex-Lone Ranger. And his words to me was, well, if this fellow wasn't going to agree to meet with you, tell him you're going to be back in 5 weeks, and I'll meet you back here in 5 weeks. I'll get him to talk to you. And that night I went back to the room and I phoned him up. I said, we're leaving tomorrow. And if you don't want to see me before I leave, I'll see you in 5 weeks with the Texas Ranger we just met. 6 o'clock in the morning, he's downstairs in my lobby calling me to come downstairs and meet him. He was in starched, bleached white, couldn't have looked cleaner, crisper, shoes were shined, hair perfect. And I'm thinking, you know, really? You know, me? I sometimes forgot to brush my hair. My daughter's missing. I don't care about looking perfect. And all I could say to him is, you don't look worried? And when I went to introduce him to my friend Brenda, he pulled his hands behind his back and he said, I'm not going to shake anybody's hand. And then he told me I might as well just leave. He just wanted me to see him face to face, so I knew that I wasn't of any concern to him, and that Jessie was no longer of a concern to him. To me, that just told me his whole entire attitude towards my daughter. I was business only with him. I didn't show him any emotion. I didn't want him to see me break down. And it was hard because I had been crying all night. When I stood across from him and I looked him in the face in the parking lot, it was a surreal moment to know that the person that I was looking at may have killed my daughter. And that I had to keep that thought in my head, and I let him know point blank that I knew he did something. And I've even told him, you know, you may not know where Jessie is today, but you know what happened to Jessie. Either you sold her or you buried her, but you know. I think I would be offended if somebody said something like that to me, but he never tried to, you know, defend himself. He just tried to slough me off. And that's not how a person would react to that kind of a conversation. I think the parts that bothered me the most was when we had gone out to the house, and we could look through the windows, and you could tell somebody had moved out in a hurry. There was a couch over here, a few odds and ends, but nothing to show anyone lived there. And we put posters up all on the garage and on the fence, and went around the neighborhood and handed posters out to the neighbors. And that was something else he questioned me about, was how dare I put posters up. He says, but don't worry, I've taken them all down. And I just thought, who takes down posters of a missing person? He denies that they were involved. You know, he says I was never engaged to her, yet I have pictures of her with the ring on. Now, it's a real hard thing to know that somebody just looks you in the eye and just discounts a whole entire person as nothing. And that's what he did. I also found out some other things, and that's when she was forced to work at that escort agency, that the woman who ran that escort agency, she called me up when Jessie went missing, when she heard about my looking for her. She said, I needed you to know some things about your daughter. Well, first of all, she called her Taylor because they had renamed Jessie. She wasn't even Jessie down in Las Vegas. I need you to know that your daughter was not a drug addict. I need you to know that your daughter did not come down here to do this. And I would tell her, go home, little girl, you don't belong down here. And she had one response that she would say, I'm too scared to leave. I've had some people ask me a very hard question. They go, what if what you've done has caused harm to Jessie? Maybe they took her away, but once they saw all of this, maybe they've done something worse. And I go, I really had to weigh that option, to think that maybe something I did might have got my own daughter killed simply because I was just being too much trouble. I couldn't have sat there and done nothing. I couldn't have just carried on with my life. It may have been a risk that I did take. I'd do it again. And just to hear her come in and go, oh my gosh, Mom, I can't believe you did this. My name, my face is everywhere. I would do anything to hear her give me heck for that. Well, I miss saying that, what she's doing, oh, what are you kids up to? I don't know, I don't know what she looks like anymore. I miss her being silly and belching, for 5 minutes straight without stopping. Like, it's so silly, but it's those wonderful little things that, she would probably only do around her family because it would probably be pretty embarrassing. I miss the fact that her sisters don't have her to share. My oldest daughter feels so guilty because she should have known something. She feels that I'm her big sister. How did I not know? Her little sisters just want their big sister back. Her dad's life has fallen apart. Like he can't get it together. Like, it's just caused so much heartache, I mean, I cry every day. I cry every night. I cry with my friends. I cry by myself. I just miss having a normal life that I could wake up and not have to worry about anything. I can't ever stop thinking about Jessie. I really try hard to not think of what's happened to her. I just try to think of her. You can't really think of your daughter being beaten and raped every day, or being murdered and having been buried somewhere and not resting in peace until she's found. Like, you can't think like that every day. It would make you an absolute crazy person. So I try just to think of her beautiful face and her smile, and I always think of how the name Jessie Foster has changed, how people look at the word human trafficking. They can't believe that, it could happen to her. She's so normal. I just want to help anyone I can. I want to help the parents. I want to help the young women. They need to know that there are people out there like these traffickers whose job it is to take them. I want everybody to look at her picture and know that she's just your everyday average Canadian girl next door. Absolutely beautiful, fun-loving, and probably one of the biggest reasons why she became a victim.